Hi, I'm Wayne Allyn Root for Personal Liberty. Happy holidays to all my readers, fans, and friends. My message is pretty simple this week. Don't believe the hype from liberals or the media. I know, I repeat myself. The fact is, guns save lives. Not only do liberals lie, they always come to the wrong conclusion and usually come up with the wrong solution in response to every crisis. As an example, we don't have a fiscal cliff crisis because of a tax problem in America. What we have is a spending problem. Obama is a spending addict. He needs to enter rehab. Obama's on track to add $12 trillion to our debt by the end of his second term. 3 times more than Bush. And Obama's produced 4 consecutive $1 trillion-plus deficits, more than all other presidents in the history of America combined. Obama is the biggest spender of any politician in world history. That's a fact. What does this have to do with guns? Well, it's the same story every time. Every time there's a crisis, politicians learn the wrong lesson, come up with the wrong solution, bigger government, and always use the crisis as a way to take away our freedom and, of course, grow government bigger and more powerful. Take the debt crisis. Obama wants to raise taxes, no surprise. So we lose our money, we lose our economic freedom, and government grows bigger while we add more debt to solve a debt crisis. That should work out well. Take 9/11. Bush spent billions on the formation of Homeland Security, added hundreds of thousands of expensive new government employees, started 2 wars, and took away many of our civil liberties. That ended well. Take global warming or climate change, whatever they want to call it today. Obama wants to tax us to death, double or triple our electric rates, take away our freedoms, and put government in charge of manufacturing and all industry. Gee, that'll work out well. Take the healthcare crisis. Obama passed Obamacare to raise our taxes, grow government, unionize healthcare workers, and put government in charge of our doctor visits. Gee, that should work out well. The same story holds true with the gun control issue spurred by the tragic Newtown school shooting. The liberal politicians and media are using Rahm Emanuel's famous saying, "Never let a crisis go to waste." They're trying to turn a terrible tragedy into a gun problem. Their solution is to try and demonize and ban guns. But the Newtown, Connecticut tragedy wasn't a gun problem. It was a mental illness problem. Thank goodness the American public has more common sense than the politicians and the media big shots. The latest Rasmussen poll is out following the Newtown tragedy. And while 27% think stricter gun control laws are the solution, a dominant 48% believe the answer is more action to treat mental health issues. Amen. It's obvious that many Americans feel in their gut what the statistics I'm about to share with you prove, that guns do much more than kill people in the wrong hands. More often than not, in the right hands, they save lives and prevent violence. Here are a few proven facts that are too often missing from the gun debate, and I want to thank Gun Owners of America, GOA, and ZeroHedge.com for many of these statistics. Based on a study from the year 2000, Americans use guns to defend themselves from crime and violence about a million times a year. Banning guns would leave about 1 million Americans defenseless from criminals who have no problem acquiring guns illegally. Here's another nationwide survey from about 20 years ago of 5,000 households, and it found that over a 5-year period, 3.5% of the households had a member who used a gun to protect themselves or their family or their property. That adds up to about 1 million incidents a year. Consistent. The Clinton Justice Department, now going back about 3 decades, identified 1.5 million cases per year of citizens using guns to defend themselves. Another survey found Americans use guns to frighten intruders away from a home break-in about 500,000 times a year. Armed citizens shoot criminals more than twice as often as police each year, 1,500 to 606. Each year, about 200,000 women use a gun to defend themselves from a sexual crime or sexual abuse. Bravo. The Carter Justice Department found of more than 32,000 attempted rapes, 32% were actually committed if the women were unarmed, but when a woman was armed, only 3% of the attempted rapes were actually successful. Wow, eye-opening. Newer studies all point towards a figure of 2.5 million, and that's the new number for how many times Americans defend themselves from violent criminals each year. 2.5 million times that guns save lives. Now that we've polled the citizens, how about we see what the criminals have to say? A survey of male felons in 11 state prisons across the USA found that 34% of the felons had been scared off, wounded, or captured by an armed victim of their crime. So guess what? Those weren't victims anymore. 40% of felons made a decision not to commit a crime because they feared the potential victim had a gun. 69% of felons knew other fellow criminals who had been scared off or captured by an armed victim. Again, no longer a victim. 57% of felons polled agreed that criminals are more worried about meeting an armed victim than they are about running into the police. Wow. Statistical comparisons with other countries show burglars in the USA are far less apt to enter an occupied home than foreign burglars who live in countries where fewer civilians own firearms. These facts and many more prove that guns in the right hands defend citizens, families, and children. In short, guns save lives. By the way, it's important to note that Barack Obama wants to disarm schools. He wants to create gun-free zones like they had in Newtown. That worked out well. Yet Obama spent $60,000 a year to send his precious daughters to the exclusive Sidwell Friends School in Washington, D.C., which has, drum roll please, armed guards, an armed security force of 9 to be precise. And David Gregory of NBC, who also wants to disarm schools, sends his kids there. Armed guards are necessary for their children, but not yours. And how about Hollywood? Michael Moore has armed bodyguards at the same time he condemns guns for you and me. But for me, it's always been a personal and emotional argument, even more than a factual one. You see, I'm a proud Jewish American. Over 6 million of my fellow Jews were enslaved, starved, tortured, and slaughtered by Adolf Hitler. Before it could happen, in 1938, Hitler banned gun ownership for Jews. That act on November 11th, 1938, was the beginning of the end for German Jews, for my relatives. Millions of Jews were left defenseless from that day forward, just like the criminals in the studies above, that I just talked about, who were far less likely to break into a home or attack a victim if they feared the victim was armed. Hitler only started his murderous genocide after first ensuring that his victims were disarmed, defenseless, and helpless. But why should that surprise anyone? Virtually every dictator in history has started his murderous reign by first disarming the population. The communist leaders of China recently issued a statement in response to our Newtown, Connecticut tragedy. They said that Obama should disarm the American people. I wonder why the Chinese leaders are so interested in our people being disarmed. What do you think they have in mind? I can guess. I'm a member of both the NRA and the JPFO, Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership. Will I support reasonable gun control? Of course. Should we ensure that mentally ill people cannot purchase guns? Of course. Should we enforce current gun laws? Of course. But should we move to ban guns, thereby leaving law-abiding citizens defenseless and helpless? No. Never. Not in my America. Should government and law enforcement be the only ones legally able to carry guns? No. Never. Not in America. Should government be allowed to take away guns from honest, law-abiding homeowners, business owners, and citizens like you and me? Only when you pry them from our cold, dead hands. Thomas Jefferson put it best. When governments fear the people, there is liberty. When the people fear the government, there is tyranny. I'm Wayne Allyn Root for PersonalLiberty.com. See you next week. Same time, same place. Happy New Year, everyone. Stay safe and stay vigilant. God bless America.